Hari Om. We will try to understand the concept of food according to Ayurveda. There are multiple theories, multiple concepts in Ayurveda about food, consumption of food, its effect on the body and mind, and its effect on the Prakriti or the three energies, the three doshas, vata, pitta, and kapha. So, according to Ayurveda, there are a few points which we have to consider before consuming, before eating the food. Ayurveda, the ancient science of prevention and healing, did not talk in terms of vitamins, minerals, electrolytes, or it never mentioned about carbohydrate, proteins, or fats. Ayurveda always talked about the various qualities of food which is called as the guna. Now, when deciding about your diet, first point to be considered is the food which you are going to eat. Is it going to balance your dosh, pacify your dosh, or is it going to aggravate, or is it going to imbalance your dosh or imbalance your prakriti? So, the first quality of the food is it may imbalance your prakriti or it would be helpful in balancing your prakriti. The second point which is considered is the taste of food. When we talk about the taste of food, Ayurveda mentions six different tastes of food. And these are the taste of the food in the natural form of the food. Next point is the quality of the food. For example, the food can be very heavy to digest, or it can be very light, very simple to digest. So, heavy food or light food, that's the quality of the food. Then, maybe the food is very dry or the food is very oily. These are the qualities of the food according to Ayurveda. Maybe another quality, what we can mention is the food is solid or the food is liquid. So consider the quality of the food what you are consuming. Then we also have to consider about the sattvic gun, the rajasic gun, or the tamasic gun of the food. Of course, sattvic food is considered to be the best, but some amount of rajasic and tamasic food is also included in the diet. And then in the end, we have to consider the food combinations. Certain foods cannot be consumed with other foods. It's considered as a wrong combination in Ayurveda. So a proper combination of different variety of food is important from an Ayurvedic perspective. Now, out of these different points, we are going to focus on the six taste theory of Ayurveda. So, as mentioned earlier, Ayurveda talks about six different natural tastes of food. The six natural tastes of food, they are sweet, sour, salty, pungent, sometimes it's called as spicy, then bitter and astringent. So these are the six different basic tastes, natural tastes of food according to Ayurveda. Now Ayurveda talks about five elements which are in our body, which are in this universe, and similarly these five elements, they are also in the food. So as our body is made up of five elements, similarly the food is also made up of five elements. Now each food has all the five elements, but some of the elements, they are strong in that food. So a combination of two strong elements, it gives rise to a taste. So the earth and water elements, when they are strongly present in the food, they will give a sweet taste, a sweet natural taste to the food. Similarly, earth and fire, they will give sour taste. Water and fire will give a salty taste. Fire and air will give a pungent taste. Air and space will give a bitter taste. And air with earth will give the food an astringent taste. So different combinations of two elements in the food gives a specific natural taste to the food. And then depending on this taste, the natural taste of food, Ayurveda has recommended different food, different taste of food for different prakriti. The sweet taste, it has a cooling effect on our body. So all the six tastes, they either have a cooling effect or they have a heating effect on our body. So the sweet taste, bitter taste, and astringent taste have a cooling effect on our body. On the other hand, the sour taste, the salty taste, and the pungent taste, it has a heating effect on the body. Also, the cooling or the heating effect has a grading in themselves. For example, the sweet taste is strongly cooling, so it has been given 3 grades. And astringent taste is very slightly cooling, so it is given only 1 grade. Similarly, pungent is very strongly heating taste, so it is graded as 3. And sour taste is also heating, but in a minimal quantity, so it is graded as 1. So while eating the food, we have to also consider its effect. Either its cooling effect or heating effect on the body. So logically, we can say if you want to have a cooling effect on your body, you can prefer a bit more of sweet, bitter, and astringent tasting food. So, for example, in a summer season, hot summer season, we would prefer more of sweet, more of bitter, more of astringent because it has a cooling effect. Or, on the other hand, in the winter season, we would prefer more of pungent, salty, and sour taste. Again, it's very important to remember that when we talk about taste, it is the natural taste of the food. It is not the taste of the cooked food what we are talking. So considering the effect either heating or cooling, you can select the food accordingly to the taste of that food. Next, it's very important, it's important to understand the effects of various tastes of food on our prakriti, on the energies, on the doshas in our body. So the vata, pitta, and kapha. So this chart will explain you in a simple manner which taste is good for a particular prakriti. So for example, sweet, sour, and salty tasting food, it will be good, it will be balancing the vata in a person. So someone with a vata prakriti can eat a bit more of sweet food, a bit more of sour food, and salty food. But pungent, bitter, and astringent tasting food will imbalance the vata. So someone with a vata prakriti should eat very less quantities of pungent, bitter, and astringent tasting. Similarly, a Pitta Prakriti person can prefer eating more amounts of sweet food, more amounts of bitter tasting food, and more amounts of astringent food. It will balance the Pitta in that individual. However, sour taste, salty taste, and pungent taste is not good for the Pitta person. So they should be eating sour, salty, and pungent in the minimum quantity possible. For a kapha prakriti person, sweet, sour, and salty will be aggravating. So they should be eating these tastes in very minimum quantity. And for a kapha person, the pungent, bitter, and astringent taste would be helpful in balancing their kapha. If we have to understand this with a couple of examples, we can talk about, for example, the pungent taste. Example of pungent taste is ginger. Usually, many people they drink ginger tea. So when do you prefer drinking ginger tea? You prefer drinking ginger tea when it is very hot summer season? Definitely no one prefers ginger tea in a very hot summer season because ginger being pungent taste increases the pitta which is already high because of the hot summer season. But on the other hand, we prefer ginger tea in the winter season because in the winter season, the heating effect of the pungent ginger tea will reduce the kapha in the body. So, for example, a pitta person, because of high pitta, would not prefer pungent taste and should not have that in large quantities. But someone with a kapha personality can have ginger tea because it would have a heating effect which is good for the kapha. Another example from the basic elements point of view. It's very well known that kapha people should not eat too much of sweets. They can eat sweets, but in a very small proportion, in a very small quantity. Now, the sweet taste is made up of earth and water elements. So, earth and water elements together, they give sweet taste to the food. And the kapha dosha is made up of earth and water, dominance of earth and water. So the kapha personality already has a dominance of earth and water elements in them. And if they further go on eating large quantities of sweet, too much quantity of sweet, they are further adding the same earth and water element in them in very large quantities. So already earth and water elements, they are strong in a kapha person, and by eating sweets they are further adding this earth and water element in them which will be imbalancing their kapha dosha. So it is recommended that kapha personality should not be eating too much of sweets. So this chart is the most important part if you want to implement the six taste theory in your daily diet. You can refer to this chart and decide which taste of food you would be eating more and which taste of food you will be eating in less quantities, in minimum quantities. Then, as we said, the food is also made up of the five basic elements. So, there are foods which are having one element very strong in them. So all the foods, they have all the five elements, but then one of the elements can be very, very strong in those foods. And here we are talking of a few examples of them. So for example, the earth element very strong in the food. Some of the examples, they are mushrooms. beans. So now the list of the food which we have mentioned having earth element very strong, these foods they should be consumed in very less quantity by a kapha person because kapha already has very strong earth element in them. So for example, mushrooms, kapha person can eat but should be eating in less quantities. So similarly, seeds and nuts or dried fruits or even coconut, it has very strong earth element and it is to be taken in less quantities by a kapha. Moving on to the next element, the water element in the food. So milk and milk products, watermelons, grapes, cucumbers, coconut water, they are the foods which are having very strong water element in them. And again, as it's a strong water element in them, these foods are to be avoided. These foods are to be taken in less quantity by a person because kapha is made up of two basic elements, earth and water. So usually it is said that kapha person should not drink too much of milk. The reason is the element in the milk which is strong is water, and similarly it is present very strongly in the kapha person. The next element is fire element. So for example, as we already mentioned, ginger, it's strong on fire. It's also pungent in taste. Similarly, garlic, onions, sour berries, sour fruits, they are very strong on fire element. So this food is to be consumed in less proportion, in less quantity by a pitta person. Because pitta prakriti, pitta personality is having very strong fire element in them. And if you further go on eating these food in large proportion, in large quantity, you are further adding that fire element inside your body, which will aggravate, which will imbalance the element in your personality. So a pitta prakriti person, a pitta personality person should be eating these foods in less quantities. Air element, mostly usually raw vegetables, raw fruits, beans, salads, they are having very strong air element. So a vata type of person should be eating very less amounts of salads. They should be eating very less amounts of beans, less amounts of sprouts, less amounts of raw vegetables, because all of them having a strong air element in them, and a vata person is made up of air and space. So usually if a vata prakriti person eats too much of raw vegetables and raw fruits or salads, they have a sensation of too much of bloating, too much of fullness in their stomach. It's because of the air element becoming imbalanced. So they should have these foods in less proportion. It is not that they should totally avoid it, but they should eat in less proportions. The ether element or the space element. So space element again is the vata type of personality. So vata type of personality, they should be having less amounts of sprouts, less amount of juices, fresh vegetable juices, because the space element is maximum, is more in these type of foods. So the six taste theory is actually based on the five basic elements. So depending on your prakriti or the elements which are strong in your prakriti, you can choose a proper taste, a natural taste of the food, so that the food will not aggravate, will not imbalance your dosha, your personality, your prakriti. So this is in short the concept of the six natural tastes of food and its relation to your prakriti. Hari Om.